Welcome to 5 Minute Fridays. This week I want to talk about fertilizer. You know, as you go out and buy plants, you're going to see aisles of fertilizer and all kinds of different specialized fertilizers, and it can be actually overwhelming at times, I think, the number of fertilizers. So we don't use any synthetic fertilizers here, and the actual reason that I don't is because I don't necessarily want to push the plants directly. I'm really trying to build soil, and that's really what this channel is all about. Is like, you know, I know the funnest part about gardening is obviously going and buying plants and putting plants in, or starting things from seed and watching them grow all season. And that's it's the thing everybody loves about it. But really, soil is the main component to how our gardens are going to perform, how insect and diseases are going to take advantage of our plants being under stress. Those are the negative outcomes of just rushing out, buying plants, putting them in the ground without doing some soil improvement. The problem is, though, when we think about soil improvement, it's really easy then to dive into all of these bagged products and all of these fertilizers and all of these, specialty things where there's a lot for sale out there and not a lot of instruction behind it. So I think the most important video I've ever done on this channel, on the HortTube channel, is why pH is important. And it's a video that I did back at my old garden center a long time ago. I suggest you go back and watch that video again. It's not the best production I've ever done. I probably should update that video in some way, but it really explains how pH affects how nutrients get taken up by plants and what nutrients are available. So when you have a lower pH, iron is available, and a lot of these plants in our garden are heavy iron feeders. Our pH happens to be 5.8, which is just the perfect pH for the vast majority of the plants that we would be using in our garden. Maybe your pH is 7.5, which is alkaline. Anything over 7 is considered alkaline soils, at which point you can buy plants that are that will work in that area, or you can try to manipulate it in some way. But knowing your soil pH is the most important thing. And then keeping the ground covered in mulch and improving this soil through either backing up and starting with compost or wood chips, or using hardwood mulch and feeding the soil via organic material, and then maybe a small amount of bagged fertilizer. So you can see me use plant tone out here once a year. And we're also using a little bit of fish emulsion to water our seedlings right now. And then we will maybe refertilize a few containers out here during the season, hanging basket, the vegetable garden, heavy feeding annuals. We might feed additional times, but we're still using an organic fertilizer when we do those things. But I think if your garden is requiring you to throw out lots of fertilizer for it to respond, then your soil is actually your issue. Okay, I don't really need to fertilize this garden anymore. I have gotten to the point now where it can kind of take care of itself. You think about, and I say this in live talks, who fertilizes the woods back there? How is all those things growing without us? How are they managing without human interaction back there? And the way that's happening is the ground is covered up back there. Have chunky materials falling on the ground and then protecting the seasonal dry and wet, hot and cold, and protecting life under that soil. Some of that life is big, like beetle grubs and worms, and some of that life is invisible to our eye, but still there. And those plants back there are basically plugged into a system of beneficial fungi, beneficial bacteria, and the relationship is those plants are like solar panels that feed sugars to these things under the ground that don't have access to direct sunlight. And in exchange, those living things that, again, we can't see, bring nutrients and water and other things and make them available for our plants. So if your soil is covered and healthy with organic material, then it will reduce wildly the amount of fertilizer you need to use, because you'll rebuild that relationship that plants already have. Whether they're in big grassy plains or in woodlands, they have this relationship be of beneficials under the ground, and that's what we need to be building. So shortcutting that with synthetic fertilizer to get things grow quickly is not a long-term strategy for healthy plants. So summing all this up, and this may be the closest to 5 minutes we've ever done on a 5 Minute Friday video, is try not to fall into a trap of trying to manipulate your soil in some way, you know, via all the chemistry that you can buy in a place this time of year, and really concentrate on what can I do to improve this soil going forward. We have very few insect or disease problems in this garden, and it's not because I have some sort of secret. I've been giving you the secret the whole time, which is these plants, their best defenses is their health and not over pushing them. So when I had the nursery, I had to spray constantly, spray fungicides, spray, you know, if I had this tray sitting on the ground or sitting in the greenhouse, you know, doing this right now, and we were pushing them with synthetic fertilizers, which we kind of had to do because we were trying to sell it as fast as possible. We had all kinds of root rot problems, disease, you know, all kinds of disease problems, insects attacking them. Why? Why is this stuff just being attacked constantly? And it was because we were pushing them. We were putting them in an unnatural state where they looked green. And of course, you'll buy them at the garden center or the box store or wherever. And if I can turn them in 6 months, that's great. But again, those plants are in kind of an unnatural state. They look healthy, but they're not. And they're under attack by mites and all kinds of things. When you put them out into healthy soil and put them in the right light, again, you have to have the right plant in the right place, okay? So this doesn't work if I take full sun plants and put them in the shade, and I take plants that like wet feet and put them in the driest place in the garden. Right plant, right place. If you have right plant, right place, and a healthy soil system that you're working on and building and using organic fertilizers for, you'll see a massive reduction in the amount of problems that you have in your garden ultimately. But I just wanted to throw that out there. As you go and start shopping, there's a fertilizer for this and a specialty fertilizer for that, and especially most people don't need it. Figure out what your pH is, get a soil test done. Your pH is the most important thing. And then if you have none of something, you might add it. Like if you just have virtually no phosphorus, that might be something I would add. But for most people, you're gonna have at least some of what you need of everything. And then if you buy plants that fit your pH and work on your soil, that will reduce massively the amount of problems you're gonna have. And again, right plant, right place. Thanks for watching.